You see this? I'm going to show you how to get over this with two simple ingredients. The first one, a shot of coffee. The second one, rum. First, what you want to do is you want to pour the coffee into the cup. Then, just a splash, just barely a splash of rum. You barely want to even know that there's rum in the cup. And voila. Perfect. Welcome back to Potentially Perfect, home of the world's most quotidian gamers. My name's Delampo, and I'm a Nintendo fan. We as Nintendo fans suffer from chronic ride or die bitch syndrome. People will be like, hey, I have a genuine critique about Nintendo's business practices, and we'll be all like, nuh-uh, don't you talk about him like that. I love him. You see, kids, if you live long enough, you'll learn that your heroes, be it video game designers, movie directors, etc., will all disappoint you. And Nintendo has been disappointing in years past. I'm not gonna lie. I can't lie. You'll just Google it and find out that I'm lying. But yes, this day and date thing is aggravating in the least. I mean, people tend to forget or don't want to remember that Dark Souls Remasters was announced at the end of a Nintendo Direct, which was like, what? And then we found out recently that it was going to be delayed for the Nintendo Switch. Now, this felt particularly bad to me because when I was a kid, one of my favorite parts of watching a new game trailer was at the end when they show all the game boxes and you'd see all the consoles that it was coming to, and it was really cool because you'd see like something like the GameCube next to the PlayStation 2 and Xbox versions, and you were like, yeah, we're like a part of this, you know. And it's always really great as a video gamer to feel like you're part of the gaming community instead of a part of the gaming community. Damn, I'm artsy. See, lifelong Sony and Microsoft users, they don't really know what that feels like. At least they shouldn't. I can't think of any glaring situations or stretches in which that would be relevant, but yeah, it always felt good to see your system represented along with the other ones. And I understand this is a topic completely separate of exclusivity. Exclusivity is a totally different monster. Great. I'm talking about inclusivity. The problem with this whole situation as a whole is the veil they put up. The tweets weren't very specific about what would happen to the Dark Souls version for the Switch. It was extremely vague. And so when you give people the chance to speculate, that's exactly what they're gonna do. Some people have speculated that it's gotta be technical issues, despite them showing a lot of it at PAX, even when people verged away from what the showmen were, you know, trying to lead them towards. It still seemed like it was running fine, which is cool. Alright, awesome. Some people have even speculated that it might have been a hardware issue, like maybe they couldn't get the cartridges ready. So, 2K18 released a digital version day and date with the others, then with a physical version coming later. So I really doubt that that was the situation. See, that just goes to what I was saying before. If you leave room for interpretation, people will fill in the blanks. This brings me to the conspiracy theorists. See, there are people out there who believe that this isn't all cut and dry, and I can't blame them. The first theory I'm going to talk about is the idea that Sony or Microsoft paid Bandai Namco in order to keep the game off the Switch. Okay. Now, while I don't like feeding into these, this isn't impossible. You have to remember that these are businesses, and a move like that is very business-like. I'm not, once again, don't at me. I'm not saying this is what happened, but it makes sense. This is what timed exclusives are. Even outside of video gaming, there's situations like when Apple bought a whole bunch of shipping routes away from Asia to keep the Samsung Galaxy from competing with it. This kind of thing happens. So don't say that it's impossible that Sony or Microsoft might have thrown money at Bandai Namco to bolster sales on their own console. No, because if you don't give them the credit for that kind of business maneuver, then it gives them ground to make those kinds of business maneuvers, because all they'll say is, oh, they'll never believe that we would do something like that. We're just little old Microsoft. The second conspiracy theory is that Bandai Namco is actively trying to make people double dip, meaning that they would buy it on one console and then again for the Switch later. Okay, so the Switch has gotten this a lot as of late. I mean, every console's first year is usually a little bit rocky, but something seems really amiss this time. I don't know, I can't really put my finger on it, but we've gotten a lot of this, like, rhetoric about, oh, you'll get that game, but we won't really tell you when, but it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. Maybe. That's all neither here nor there. What is true is that I love the Switch for what it is. But like I said, we do find ourselves in this situation a lot, wishing that we could get a game at the same time as the other consoles at the peak of its popularity. In fact, business-wise, that makes the most sense there too. You get the most return for your investment there because people are interested in the game at a certain time, and as we saw with situations like Rise of the Tomb Raider, regardless of the fact that the game was good, it was a very good game. It received a lot of critical accolades. It was viewed upon positively. And then it came to PlayStation, and everybody's like, there's a Tomb Raider game that came out on the PlayStation again? When was this? Nobody knew, because nobody cared. It's unfortunate that these kind of things happen, but it's true. This is what timed exclusivity does. And I don't know what kind of deals are going on in the background. We don't know how much money companies like Sony and Microsoft are putting up for these timed exclusives, but it's gotta be worth it, right? Maybe not as worth it as it may seem, because think about it. When Crash came out, it was a year of timed exclusivity. Like, the Switch and Xbox are getting it in August, I believe. So why is it that they're not doing it again with Spyro? Maybe it's because they knew they were leaving a lot of money on the table. And speaking of which, I think it's very interesting how rumors work in all of this, because I remember when Crash was announced, there were rumors very short after that that it was going to come to other consoles, be it the Xbox and the Nintendo Switch. Okay, so a lot of people were like, okay, I'm not going to buy that, I'm going to wait for the Switch version. And that's rightfully so. I was one of those people. I'm waiting for the Switch version. However, Spyro is a totally different monster in the fact that as much as I love Crash, I love Spyro so much more. And if, in all honesty, if the game's not come out within a month of the release on the other consoles, I can't really say that I'm gonna wait for it. I'm probably just gonna get it on the PlayStation and be done with it. See, patience is a virtue, but I don't think that it's gonna hold out as long as these companies want it to. If you know my channel, you'll know the weight that I put on perception, and in the long run, let's say, for instance, that the Switch doesn't work out. Well, they're just going to use this all as ammunition against it, and Nintendo in the sense that they're going to be saying things like, oh, the games came out way later than anybody cared about. Well, that wasn't the fan base's fault. It's a newer console, games take time to produce, and so the games will come out later. And that, once again, the excuse will only work so long. And I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. And I am. Honestly, there are too many awesome games coming out for this console and the other ones every month for me to get hung up on an afterthought. So, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go sit in my chair and start my Golden Girls marathon while I wait for Wolfenstein 2 to drop on the Switch. Stay perfect.